All right, you guys, we are on to this project where we are going to reuse some tins and decorate them. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the Christmas sprinkly candle. I'm going to decorate these first. We can be heating the wax whilst decorating. Then we've got a nice decorated tin that we can pour our wax into. These are all summery. I've actually cut some of these wraps that are going to go around these tins, and then I've got a nice ribbon here. I'm going to layer this, and then I'm going to put this over this because this is a pretty decorative fabric. So these are just fabrics I got in a bundle. You can get these on Amazon. You can get these in the Hobby Lobby stores and stuff like that. And then I've got a sage citrus scent. I thought that would go pretty well with these colors. This is a nice like spring summery type of project, but you can change these up so many ways, so many fabric options and ribbon options. And we're gonna add a little bit of a green color to the mix. So we're gonna have like a nice fresh summery candle. So here we go. I'm gonna go pop into the house, melt this wax, and I will be back here once it's all melted, and we will add the scent and the color and wait for it to cool so we can pour. So let's pop into the house. All right, you guys, I'm still keeping an eye on this. It's starting to melt a little bit. You can see there's some wax in there. I know it's probably not near temp just because I can still see wax. Yep. So we're still waiting to get to temp. Okay, you guys, we are super close here. So I'm just gonna give it like another minute or two to get up to 185, and then we're gonna head to the shop. Okay, so I've got some pre-cut fabrics already, but I just wanna show you real quick what I did. Just kind of laid this out and did just a very sort of quick little measure here about how far around this needs to go. I just did like a little quick wrap like this, and I took my scissors and I made just a little mark there. Also made a little mark along the bottom like this, just so I know where to cut. And you can see, so I've got two cuts here. I've got one here and one here. Move some of this back a little bit so you can see. So I've got a cut down here and a cut here. And I just grabbed my ruler and I marked these off. I drew a line, and then I cut with my scissors. And that gave me a really good sort of rough cut to cover these tins. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're gonna do a lot of like cover up with our glue gun. So these are my rough cuts and they are ready to go. So I'm gonna do a little bit of layering here. Again, I like to layer these things. This is a pretty decorative fabric, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of twine around the tin. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this one. These are super simple, easy ways to add some decor to these. So again, I'm just gonna, let me move this over here. There we go. So I'm just gonna add the glue along this same mark here where the paper was. And then I'm just gonna kind of let it catch there. Like that. I'm gonna do a little wrap around. You could add some sort of in the middle here to kind of make sure it doesn't slide or anything. But I don't think there's any need for that. How much overlap is there? not a lot. So I'm gonna just add it here, right along that seam. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we've got our fabric wrapped around there. Again, this is a super simple one. And I'm gonna measure out some twine, make it a little bit longer. I like to have a little extra room to tie the knot, and then I can kind of cut off the bit that I don't need. I like to make it just a little bit higher than it needs to be, than center. I mean, it can be wherever you want it to be. And so I'm gonna tie it. I'm gonna also use my glue gun here. Sorry, I keep getting off camera. I get lost in what I'm doing and I forget that I'm filming at the same time. Okay, so I'm just tie a little knot here like this. And I'm gonna add a couple of dots. Let me pull this one out so it's matching the other side. There we go. So I'm just gonna add the teensiest bit of hot glue there. Just so that this doesn't slide around. Whoops. This twine is pretty rough and it's just, glues get all mixed up in there. Okay, so there we go. I'm gonna add a little bit to this back as well, just so it's nice and set. It doesn't need to be a lot of glue. You just wanna hold this in place. There, a little dot of glue. You could add a little bit more to these sides if you wanted to. It's such a small amount. Oops, and I got a little too much, but that's okay. There we go. Little dot of glue there. All right, got some straggler strings hanging off, and there we go. So that's nice and decorated. We're gonna move on to this one. It's gonna be the same kind of deal. It's just that we're gonna use ribbon instead of twine. So again, I'm just gonna add some glue along this mark here where the paper glue was. And just gonna line it up, let it catch there in the glue, and just kind of press it in. Get some of these little scragglers out of here. Okay. Wrap that around. Add some glue here, right in the same spot, just like I did last time. And I'm gonna pull it, kind of pulling it tight here. Here we go. Just making sure it's wrapped well. There we go. Okay. All right. So we've got our ribbon here. I'm gonna do the same thing. Actually, you know what? I really do like to kind of off-center thing because I think it just adds a little bit more design instead of being dead center. So I went high with the twine, so I'm gonna go low with the ribbon. Just add a little bit of hot glue there. Let that attach. Kind of bring it around. Make sure it's good and tight. This is a little bit long, like you can see. It's a little bit long. Don't need it to be that long, so I'm gonna cut right here. Okay, pull that back. So I'm gonna add hot glue right here. Love this Chandler Tool hot glue gun. It's got that base on it, makes it so easy to pick up and sit down. I really hate it when the glue guns fall over. Okay. It also makes it, you know, where it doesn't drip because it's standing up. So one less thing to worry about when you've got all these moving parts. Now we've got some really pretty decorated tins. And again, you guys, you could take this in so many different directions. If you didn't want to use fabric, you could use decorative paper. I mean, just go down the paper aisle at the crafts and hobby stores if you have access to one, because they have so many different things. You could do something sports related. You could do something, you know, hobby related. If you know somebody that likes horses, if you know somebody that's a swimmer or plays basketball or football or whatever, you know, whatever their deal is. You can find so many ways to decorate these. Such a easy, inexpensive way to do these candles. And I just wanted to tell you too, the inside ridge here, these get really sharp when you are opening these cans. I actually took my Dremel. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. This is my Dremel, and I sanded the inside of these like this. It's gonna get loud. Hang on. Oops. You can see all those kind of marks in there. That's because I sanded it. That way you don't have these sharp edges that you might get cut on. So you might want to invest in a Dremel if you're going to be doing these a lot, or you can get some sandpaper or a file and sand those down so that you don't have those sharp edges. Okay, so I have got my wax all melted and it is ready to accept scent. I went ahead and added the dye into the bottle so it's a little melted from the dye. Now I'm doing a green here because the scent is sage citrus, but I also added a little bit of red. I wanted to get some red in there because red helps sort of tone down the green a little bit. I didn't want it to be too bright. Anytime you want to tone down a color, you add the color that is opposite it on the color wheel. You just got to make sure you don't add too much or it'll get kind of muddy and brown. But in this case, I wanted it to kind of be a muted green. I didn't want it to be like Crayola green or too bright. So added a little bit of red, and I may have to do that again. So I've got this, what is it called? Paper towel left over. And sorry you guys, it's the end of the day and my brain is a little fuzzy. So I'm gonna keep stirring this. I haven't been counting because I've been talking. Again, it's the end of the day. And so it's a little muted. It's not quite as crayony yellow, green as it was before. So I'm gonna add just a couple of bits of red dye here. And this is, again, like I said, this is the kind of thing where you just have to kind of experiment. You can say I'm just adding a little bit. It's not a lot. I don't want to add too much. I just want to mute that green a little bit. So you don't want to actually see any red color. You just kind of want to see that the green has been toned down. Sage is not a very bright color. So I don't want a bright like Crayola green. So I can keep adding. That's kind of muting a little bit. But I don't want it to get too muted, you know what I mean? I don't want like an army green. So that's still a little too bright. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more. And this is the fun part. This is like the experiment experimenting part where you can kind of add and see what happens and then add again. Sorry, that's so loud, you guys. I went ahead and put my wicks and my wick holders in place, so I'm ready to go. Now, okay, I can tell it's a little bit more muted. Okay, so that's really good. I really am liking that. I can see a difference between this color and this color. You can see that red is kind of toning down that green. It's not going to be super, super bright. It's going to have a nice mellow green to it. So I am going to, let's go ahead and get like a baseline test of this. Can you see that in the shot? Okay, we're already at 150, so I know it's too hot. So I'm gonna let that cool. I'm gonna give it about 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna give it a check and see where we are. And once it hits, 120 to 140, I like to be in the 120 range. So once I know I'm like 120 degrees or a little bit above that, it's good to pour. So I'm gonna let that cool, and then we're gonna come back and pour. All right, our temp is at 125, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour these. It's really full. It's okay. That's why I've got the work surface. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this one. Okay, and here are our 2 sage citrus candles. They have cooled overnight. And you can see we've got a nice flat cooled surface that is hardened really nicely, and it's got a nice muted green color. I am so pleased with how these have turned out. These are going to be a great summer addition to my candle collection.